This is going to be our short intro into using the impax pack system, and just go over a few of the things we'll talk about. We'll look at the list of the patient, the possible exams, and if we pull up an exam, we can see the text, we can see the report and the image, and we can tell something about the image because there'll be a scale on there. If we pull up a study, we can see the available studies. There may be earlier studies from previous days, and if we look at the study, the specific day we're looking at, there may be different series from that one study. They may be soft tissue windows and bone windows, or soft tissue and lung windows, part of that series from one day's exam. And we can link those series together. There's a cross-link tool which allows us to move up and down in one data set and see the other one together. So if we're looking at the lungs or looking at the chest, we can see the soft tissue and the lungs together, or the brain and the bones, so we can link those studies together. There's different levels we talked about, the window width and level, or the window level, for looking at CT scans especially. There are ways to adjust that. There are some preset windows that are there, and you can use those. You can adjust it yourself, but if you adjust it, you really need to know how to revert it, to put it back the way it was. We'll talk a little bit about that. I'll call that the undo feature. There's a way to measure things using a caliper on the screen, measure nodules or aneurysms or masses or something, and then we can adjust it how the images look. We can look at them in this 4-on-1 format, especially with CT scans, where we may have the soft tissue windows in one corner and the bone windows in the other, or we can look at it as one giant image of just the soft tissue or just the bone. And then we can also look at it where we'll have the previous day's exams, maybe one day from here and another day and another day. So there are different ways to look at it. We can pull up the scout image, which may look more like a radiograph, but we can compare where the data is from. And there's various demographics on there that can be taken off, especially if we want to save that data for an image file. Alright, so let's just look at, we've picked a patient here. We're going to pull up our friend here, a common name, and let's see what we get. Okay, and so if we pull it up, we can see what we've got. We've got a CT scan, and we've got two different data sets here. We have basically the soft tissue windows on this side and the bone windows on this side, and so we can look at this little corner right here, and we can see that where it says show available series, and it'll show us that yes, that's what we've got. We've got the soft tissue and we've got the bone windows, and so we kind of knew that, but that's what we can see. We can also click on the text and we can see the report, and we can see this is the exam we're looking at, and we can scroll down over here grabbing that little slider bar and read the report, and we can look over here and see the available studies, and we can see that, well, there are actually some older CT scans as well. There's a CT scan from a previous date and a previous date, and the one we've selected has got this little eye here that's the one selected, but there's some other ones here, so those are actually have already been pulled by the computer, and they're there for comparison. But let's just look at the one we're going to talk about right now. And we've looked at the available images, available series, and we've looked at the text. So let's look at this little tool right here, this little chain. This will link the series together. So if we click right there and lock that one together, and then put that one and lock that one together, now if we scroll between the two, we see the two move together. So before, if we had picked one and used the mouse with the roller bar, we would have only moved one data, but now we've linked those two together. So that's a pretty handy tool to be aware of. Okay, moving across here, we'll skip this little link right here. This links previous days, and we'll skip across here, and we'll come to this level right here, this little cross here with the colors here. That is the window level selector. So if we click on that with our left click, and then click with our right click, it'll show us all the available options that we can pick from. So if we're looking at the brain, and somehow we wanted to look at something on a bone window or something like that, we can sit there and pick the one we want to look at. Here's one bone right there, and we click on that image right now, and now we can change it to a bone window right there. So we do have these available preset ones to choose from, but I think it's also easy to know that there's a way to revert to go back to what you were looking at, and the space bar is probably the easiest way to do that. So if we click that, we've now put those images back together, and we're looking at them in the way we had before. So let's just say we're looking at our images here, and for whatever reason we've clicked on one, and now by clicking on that we've managed to adjust this window where everything seems like they've both changed, or we've moved the mouse and the windows are all looking different. They're all whited out or such like that. Well, we told you a little bit about that. If you just stop for a minute, click for a second, and hit that space bar, you can revert to where you want it to be. So that's a pretty handy feature to be aware of, the revert, or what I'll call the undo feature. Okay, so we've got our studies together here, and let's just say we wanted to look at one of them at a more zoomed feature. If we double click on an image, that'll bring us up to our one-on-one format. So that's pretty helpful, where we can scroll up and down, and we'll notice we've got this scale on the side here. Each one of those is a centimeter scale. Alright, so let's just say I just double clicked there and got everything back to where we were looking at that 4-on-1 mode, and let's look again and see what else we have there to choose from. So if we just drag our little mouse across the way here up at this title bar, or up at this top bar here, we'll see some of these other things come up. Again, that's that backward circle, that's that undo feature. This one above it right there, it says display scout. Sometimes that can be kind of helpful, and if we click on that and then click down that in the image, it'll show us where those images are from. And let's just move that around a little bit, and now if we notice as we scroll up and down in our CT set, we can see where in the body those slices are from. So that display scout can be kind of helpful sometimes if you're trying to get oriented for where exactly those slices are from. But we've done that, so let's get rid of that. And so that was that display scout format, that one right there. And if we go up here, this little box right here, and this little box is pretty helpful. This says select screen format, and so if we click on that, we'll notice that we've got these choices there to pick from. We've got what I'll call the 4-on-1 box. There's that white box with the 4-on-1 bar, and then that's the one we're looking at right there, and that's kind of the default that comes up with the CT scan. Right under it is that 1-on-1, where we could see the images with just a single big picture. We could also see that, if you remembered, I just double clicked on that and that would come up. Now if we scroll across here all the way down to the bottom, this is a little bit hard to see, but this says study 2/2. This is really has a black 4-on-1 cross on that, and if we pick that up, that will pull our old studies together. So if we notice, if we look at this now, we actually have previous CT scans, and we can look at those dates and see that they are in the past and such, so that we can actually look at those and compare the two together. So let's just put our friend right here, kind of a similar picture. We can see that little bit of that calcified pineal right there in the middle. He's a little bit tilted right here. So we now have our 3 studies together from different days, and we can look at those dates and see that they're several months apart. And now if we take this other chain that I skipped talking to you about, this multi-chain tool here, and if we click that, now we can see that those studies have been linked across by the slices that we put together. Now they're linked across and they move together in sequence. So that's a real helpful way to look at a study or look at several studies together when you want to have them together. So again, we've picked that 4-on-1 box that has the black markers to it, and now we can look at the studies together, but we've had to pick the slices that we want and make sure that we've linked them together using this second chain link tool there. So I think now, just going back looking at our single day study where we have our soft tissue and our bone windows together, let's double click on that and we can get the big picture there. So again, if we wanted to save that image for some presentation or something like that, well, we can pick the image that we want, and then we've got to go up here and take this demographics tool and take the demographics off. Now we have just the image. We don't have any information, any identifiers on that, but if we can right click on that and we can pick up another little screen here, let's make that pop up. You can see export. So this is a way that you can actually export that image, and it can be saved to a hard drive as a JPEG file. Now you can export the entire series or the entire study if you need it, but really I think just an image will be fine. But just remember, you do need to get that that demographic material off of it. So I think, to review just what we went over here, we pulled up an image. So we went from the file where we pulled up from a patient, and we got our patient patient, and then we could look at our study, our exam we had there. Over here we could read the report. We could scroll through there and see what the report looked like, and we can go back to our study by using our little linker tool here. We can link the together so that they will move in sequence together, and we found that was pretty helpful. We also looked and saw that we can choose from here. This is that window selector tool, and we click on that with the left click and then right click, and we can pick from different options that we want, and then we can use that one. And if we don't like it, that space bar is a great way to revert. We can also go over here, and there's that backwards arrow which reverts it as well. So those are pretty helpful there. I think that's basically what we're going to need to know. If we want to look in and add in other studies where we want to put in the older study, just remember that we can go there, and there's a black box here that we can pull up there, and that'll give us our old studies, but we have to match them up together to make them move in sequence. So again, we're back on our original study here. We've got the two moving back and forth. If we go back up here and look at our under our text file, we can see all the other images that were available. Now if we did want to scroll down there and look at the report from that study, we can click on that prior day's exam, and we can read that report as well. And if we want to look at that image specifically by clicking on that icon there, that'll help just pull that one up together, and then we can go from there if we need to. But that kind of helps review everything there. So again, that just reviews what we went over, the list, and we can pull up an image and we can read the text, and we always got a scale. We do have available studies and available series from previous days or different bone windows, soft tissue windows. We talked a little bit about how to link those two things together. Remember, there are some preset windows in there that you can choose from, and that if it gets mixed up, don't forget that there's a revert, that undo feature using the space bar, or go over to that upper right corner. There's a backwards circular arrow. There is a way to measure things with a little ruler, and then there's that screen format tool for looking at things in the 4-on-1 method, or just the 1-on-1. The double click will always bring up the 1-on-1, and then there's a black 4-on-1 to pull up old studies. We talked a little bit about Scout and demographics. Okay, so there's your whirlwind tour. I hope that's helpful.